I pretended to be stuck in the dryer to tease my husband. You all know that meme with the girl stuck in the dryer wiggling her ass trying to seduce her stepbrother? My husband showed me one of those jokes the other night, and I thought of it again about an hour later when I was doing the laundry. So, I did it. I bent over when he wasn't looking and pushed myself into the dryer. The position gave me no view of him at all, but I heard his amused laugh as he crossed the room to give my ass a spank. I was only wearing a big t-shirt and panties at the time. One spank quickly turned into a second, which turned into him rubbing my clit through my panties, while keeping his hands on my waist so I couldn't get out of the dryer. When I started my little joke, I didn't actually expect he'd get into it. The position itself had always seemed too silly for me. I guess while it was a sexual joke, it hadn't actually turned me on. My husband's fingers had entirely changed my mind. I piped up for him, even including the dumb, "What are you doing, stepbrother?" It earned me another laugh from him before he tugged my panties down around my ankles. I pointed out that the position wasn't exactly the most comfortable, and told him not to take his time. Everybody loves quickies, right? His hot dog was inside of me seconds later. I braced myself against the back vent of the dryer and pushed back into him. His pace quickened, and I kept up my feigned complaining and started into a lecture about how Mom and Dad absolutely cannot find out about this. He laughed again, but his hot dog also throbbed inside of me, so I continued. My babble continued until it earned me a harder spank across the ass, and my husband playfully warned me that if I wasn't quiet, we'd end up getting caught. I decided that was a wonderful time to practice my Kegels, and did my best to bring him closer and closer to the edge while also having no ability to reach back with my hands. He pushed his hot dog entirely inside of me and gasped as he filled me. We kissed when he pulled me out of the dryer, and I asked how I did playing porn star for the evening. He told me I had done a wonderful job, before chasing me up the stairs to our bedroom.
I begged my ex-husband to take me back, but he said he couldn't because I broke him. I don't know if this is the right place to put this on. Yet the title of the group fits the situation I placed myself in. I am posting because my therapist suggested that I should just let it all out, and oddly enough Reddit seemed like a place to do it, so here it goes. I, 42, F cheated on my husband, 42, and 3 years ago, it destroyed my family and I regret it every day. My husband and I got together when we were 19. We were nowhere near each other's first, and for 22 years I thought we were happy. Sure, he has his moments when his temper gets the best of him, but he's the kind of guy that wears his heart on his sleeve and takes a lot of SHT, and when he blows up, he will grieve everything that has been bothering him, and I understand. I do the same thing and tend to say some heartless things towards him out of anger, and he never held it against me. Our sex life was great. Of course he would love to have more. He would try every day, but as a stay-at-home mom of 5, 3 girls and 2 boys, I get tired and he voices opinions when we don't have sex, and I found it to be annoying. Thinking back, we could have had sex more often. Yet, he does help around the house. He works 60 hours a week and makes sure I sleep in on weekends, and I wake up to a nice clean house and breakfast. As the years went by and the 3 eldest began to head off to college, I was feeling that empty nest syndrome. I was bored, going a bit stir crazy. I still had my 2 boys, but they were in junior high and didn't need me really. My husband saw this and encouraged me to get a job. In hindsight, I should have told him no. Should have gotten a hobby. Should have done a lot of things differently. My husband is a bit stocky, slight overweight, but handsome. As for me, I seesaw between 150 to 210, depending on the year. When I started working again as a customer service rep, I was 160 and I felt great. I haven't been in the workforce in 21 years and it felt good to be back working. As the months went by, I began hanging out with the younger 25-year-old co-workers from the office that was encouraged by my husband because I lacked female companionship. I used to shove him to go hang out with his co-workers, so it was only fair that I did the same, and those girls put ideas in my head. They made me think that I could do better, made me think that my husband wasn't sexy enough, made me think that I was held back. Even one of my male co-workers stated that my husband is a beta pretending to be an alpha, and I ate it up. At the time I thought my husband was all bark and no bite. Yes, I used to see him argue with people who would run their mouth. Had no problem stepping up to them, but I never saw him got into a fight. I don't know where that came from. I loved him, I honored him. In return he honored me. All of our friends always told me how lucky I was to have him, and I did felt lucky, yet somehow they all got in my head and I guessed my love for him. This little nudge kept going every time my co-workers and I talked, and eventually I began flirting with the same male co-worker who called my husband a beta. He was the same age as me and he was handsome, physically fit, and as the weeks went by, one thing led to another. He made the first move and I just went with it. We were having sex every chance we got. I felt younger, desired, and I treated my husband like SHT. I denied him SXX, poked fun at his weight, even tried to make him think that he was crazy when he questioned our relationship. I had no clue where that came from. Thinking back, I don't know why I was acting like that. I don't know who that person was. I realized how bad it was when my husband crushed a glass cup with his bare hand, staring at me with hateful eyes during dinner. "You have a hickey," he spat while he wrapped up his palm and left to urgent care. My sons looked at me in shock. The eldest of the boys' eyes turned beet red before he ran off. I called my lover and yelled at him, and he told me that he wanted to mark his territory, and I felt disgusted. It was the first time I felt remorseful about what I'd done. It was after midnight when he came home and looked at me dead in the eyes and asked how long. I wanted to deny it, wanted to tell him no, but I saw it on his face, so I told him 4 months. "Did you SCK as DCK? I said nothing. He walked around me, only to stop short by my ear and said low enough for me to hear, "I want to divorce you fking SLT." I was so angry that he called me that. He never talked to me like that before and all I could do was cry, especially when I noticed our boys staring at me at the foot of the stairs. They looked at me with such rage, and I was angry at him for doing that out in the open. I should have been angry with myself. Should have been disgusted at myself, but I had these blinder on and my husband instantly checked out. It was like a light switch and just like that, his love for me was gone. My female coworkers rallied behind me, convincing me that I was making the right choice and I could spend more time with my lover, and I bought into it. I didn't want the separation period. My husband moved out of the house and into an apartment a half-mile away. My sons were treating me like shot and my daughters refused to speak to me. My lover began coming over to the house despite my protesting, but he just came over. This infuriated my children and he refused to leave the first time I begged my ex-husband to take me back, but he said he couldn't because I broke him. Came over to pick up the boys. My lover was more physically fit than my specs, but he just smiled at my lover. Not yet was what he told him with a smile. Not yet, but soon. When they left, I was so angry at my lover, I told him that what he did was uncalled for and he just ignored me, only to yell at me when he had enough, and it scared me. My lover soon began to tell me what to eat, what to wear, making these hurtful comments when no one was listening, and I let it happen. When the divorce gotten finalized, we negotiated 50-50 straight down with a payment plan to buy his half of the house. We had shared custody, but the boys wanted to live with him. I haven't seen my eldest daughters in a long time. They don't return my phone calls. I only found out one of them was in a serious relationship when he mentioned it. It was surreal when it happened. Watching him sign the papers caused so much pain in my chest. When he took his ring off and placed it on the paper, I felt the ball in my throat, and when he left, I realized I never apologized to him. I grabbed the pen and just stared at the ring. At that moment, I realized how much I effed up. I destroyed my marriage, my relationship with my children, and I think I was in an abusive relationship, and I just cried. I couldn't breathe, I was too incoherent, but eventually I signed it. A week after my divorce was when my lover hit me for the first time. I was telling him about my day and I bumped into the nightstand and knocked over his phone. He gave me this look, slapped me and called me clumsy. I called my ex and the first thing he asked was, "Does he touch my children?" I told him no and he just hung up. I cried so hard that night. Soon my lover got comfortable using his hands. It went on for 2 months and at the time, I felt like I deserved it. My ex never laid a hand on me. My lover did, and to me, it was karma. It only stopped when he hit one of my daughters who was home from college due to COVID. She was the only one who wanted to stay at the house. The 2 older ones stood at their dad. One phone call from her and my ex walked into the house, offered my lover a free hit before beating him into a bloody pulp. My ex was stone-faced the entire time. No emotions. I had to beg to stop him. He looked at our daughter's bruised face and asked her what hand did he use to hit her, and he broke his right hand by stomping on it. When it was over, my ex took him and dragged him outside. Not one he looked at me. Not once acknowledged me. He took him to the hospital and told the ER that my lover fell down a flight of stairs. My husband stood by my lover's side. I do not know what they spoke about, but the following day my lover quit the job and left me. I kept working and my ex began screwing some of my single friends, even a couple of my coworkers. One of them was the girl who convinced me to cheat. I only found out after the fact when my coworker was stressing over him, bragging to the other girls how he blew her back out. Constantly asking me about him and why he won't return her phone calls. It hurt me to know that he was doing that. I think he was doing that on purpose. I dated a few guys, but it never lasted. I'm a single mother of 5 children, that seemed to push men away. Then there was the ex. Looking back, even with my lover, none of them could satisfy me the way my ex could. Which made me wonder, why did I allow this to happen? I was happy. How did I let myself get manipulated? I don't understand why. During this time my house was always quiet. My boys were either locked into their room or at their dad's. My daughters, with the exception of my third-born, refused to talk to me, and it was hurting. My ex saw this and he conducted a family meeting. He had all the kids in the house and I was happy to have all of our children under the roof, but the majority didn't want to be there. He began telling the kids to talk to me and my youngest called me a WH3. This shocked me. It hurt me so much and my ex slapped him right in front of me. "Have I ever called your mother that?" He barked and our son shook his head. "Your mother takes care of you, she loves you and you will respect her. What happened between us has nothing to do with you. All of you will start respecting your mother. Do I make myself clear?" He looked at all of our children and it spoke volumes, and my relationship with my children began to improve. During the 2nd-year anniversary of our divorce, we were civil. We laughed, talked. He constantly came over to the house to fix things, to talk about the kids, and for a while I had my husband back and I leaned in, but he shoved me and said no before walking away. A month later, he began dating our youngest teacher. She's 10 years younger than him and they have a lot of common interest. She's extremely attractive and I tried to be civil while they were dating, but it hurt seeing him looking at her the way he looked at me. How he touched her, made her laugh. She was the center of his attention and I understood why people envied us. Why they kept telling me how lucky I was. That devotion, why I never noticed it. I had my nervous breakdown when I heard that they were expecting and they were getting married. I woke up with him by my side, wiping the stray strands from my face, and I just cried, begging him for forgiveness, for destroying our family, and he said nothing. He just let me talk while holding me. I begged my ex-husband to take me back, but he said he couldn't because I broke him. Visited me every day, only leaving my side to talk to his fiancée, and she even came over to check up on me. I don't deserve their sympathy. Her kindness, she even found me a therapist that they paid for. My therapist was blunt to say the least. She said I was having a midlife crisis, and instead of talking to my husband, I allowed these young women to manipulate me. She explained that they wanted to sabotage my marriage because they were single, most likely will never marry, and saw me as easy prey. Misery loves company, and the fact that the main instigator screwed my ex-husband only proved it. After a few months of sessions, she saw how I am still struggling with it, and she suggested to post on Reddit. Create a throwaway account and let the pain flow. It is therapeutic and a unique alternative to group therapy. My ex-new wife is a lovely person. She comes over a lot to check up on me, she talks to me, makes sure I'm okay, and as much as I want to hate her, I can't. She's too nice, and their twin boys are beautiful. My ex also comes around to make sure I'm okay, if I'm eating. Telling me that despite what happened, I will always be the mother of his children and he will always be there for me as a friend. He even came over last Saturday and let me sleep while he cleaned up the house and had breakfast waiting for me. That made me break down and cry. I miss him so much. I miss my husband. I miss my best friend. Till this day I don't understand how I was so easily manipulated. I'm so alone. My kids are here, but we're not as close as we used to be, but they're here. Yet the one person I want the most is not. He moved on and I'm the reason why. Someday I will move on with my life, but for right now, I deserve this. I deserve everything. Edit. I spoke to someone in the messages and I wanted to set the matter straight. I wanted to talk about what my ex went through, but I felt like it wasn't my place to talk about his pain. I tried to make amends, countless times, but he wanted nothing to with me. It didn't help that my AP didn't want to leave me alone. No matter what I did. He just wouldn't leave me alone. I felt trapped. During the affair I was in this weird haze. It's hard to explain, it was like an out-of-body experience. That day was supposed to be the last time and he left a mark on me. I remembered when I begged my ex to give me another chance. It was days after he found out. He just looked at me and walked away. Only 3 times he spoke to me, when he tried to be civil when signing the divorce papers, when I called him when my partner hit me, and the day after he nearly killed my AP. On that day he unloaded everything on me. As I mentioned before, he has a habit of letting everything fester before he explodes. He yelled at me about my stupid choices, about destroying him, how he doesn't have the luxury to mourn our marriage because he needs to be strong for the kids, and I just cried because I broke this man. This strong man who would have tried to find a way to freeze hell if I asked him. I apologized, but he didn't want to hear my apology. He told me that my AP will never bother me again and left. It took a year before we became conversational. Before that he wanted nothing to do with me. When he started fooling around with some of the women I knew, I just let him be. I knew why he was doing it and I felt it was well deserved. It was after that family meeting when he began acting civil for the kids' sake, and during that time, I truly realized what I destroyed. After the family meeting, little by little my kids began to talk to me again. My youngest took the longest, but I tried. Oh God, did I try to make amends with the kids. I needed to fix what I broke with them. They were my top priority. As the kids saw my efforts they slowly opened up, but not as much. During that second year, seeing my kids laughing in the house while my ex-husband joked around or helping around with chores, cooking on the grill and dancing with the girls, I thought that if I made the effort, showing him how much I was sorry, that I could win him back. I did everything that I could, asked for couple counseling, to start over, wearing every outfit he bought me, his favorite perfume, had my hair just how he liked it, but he just ignored me. That's why I tried to kiss him that day. I thought there was a moment. But he stopped me. I cried, I pleaded, and he just looked at me. He told me that he couldn't be with me because I broke him. He will never kiss me because I had another man in my mouth. He will never hold me because I had another man touch me. He will never sleep with me because I allowed another man to sleep beside me. I pointed out the women he had been with after our divorce, and he made it clear that it happened after our divorce. What I did was during our marriage. Your body and heart belongs to me, just like my body and heart belongs to you, and you destroyed that. I'm trying to just be his friend, but it's hard. I've been married to this man for over 20 years and I ruined it in 6 months. For what? A midlife crisis? For my desperate need for female friends? An urge to want to fit in? I look back and I do not know who that person was. Everything was out of character for me. My third-born understood, and if it wasn't for her being there for me, I would have ended my life. She kept me sane. Kept me safe. I had no idea she was home that day. Usually the abuse happens when the kids are gone or while we're driving to and from work. I always dread it when they leave. Yet I allowed him to do that to me because I felt like I deserved it. That night I stood up for myself. I told him to leave and he didn't like that. Not one bit. When he hit me and pinned me against the wall. My daughter appeared out of nowhere and jumped on his back when he hit me again. He flipped her over and backslapped her. I hit him and ran into the garage with my little girl. He was banging on the door and she called her father. He practically broke through the garage door when my ex arrived and I had to stop him, otherwise my ex would have killed him. His new wife is a godsend for him. She allowed him to love again. Allowed him to be himself again. I didn't want to be a part of his new life, but she insisted. She was also in an abusive relationship before meeting my husband. She wanted no animosities, and trust me, she made it clear that she has claws and is not afraid to use them if I overstep. My children adore her. She was the English teacher to the majority of them after all. I just have these moments of overwhelming guilt that is crippling. Yes, I still work for that company and I eventually became a manager and fired those women. I knew all of their dirty secrets, so getting rid of them wasn't an issue. I just miss what I had, that's all.
My aunt insulted my weight during Thanksgiving dinner and made me cry, so I outed her adulterous husband in front of the whole family. My aunt is someone who genuinely doesn't like me. I know it sounds weird to say that a family member does not like you, but it's true. My aunt places the majority of her self-worth on her appearance, her physique and beauty. She has spent over $50,000 in cosmetic surgery in order to look exactly the way she wants to. She exercises every single day, taking no days off, and is the queen of eating disorders, refusing to eat anything deemed junk food, even on holidays. She is rail thin, and really believes that everyone should live the way she does. Her obsession with her looks and appearance is so extreme that I have seen her explode at her husband for getting her cupcakes to celebrate their anniversary. Maybe this is why he cheats on her. The only reason I know is because their 4-year-old, my cousin, is someone who I'm very close with, and she has told me before that she saw her daddy with not mommy. I have kept this a secret, however. I don't feel like I should be the one to blow up a marriage. Besides, the man's marriage is miserable. If the affair comes out, he won't be too devastated. I think my aunt is just deeply insecure, and that's why she pushes this lifestyle onto others, especially me. You see, I'm a tomboy of sorts. I don't place much attention on my looks. I don't care for expensive clothes and makeup the way she does, and I am sort of chubby. Nothing major which affects my health, but I can admit that I have a tummy. However, my health is completely fine, and I do exercise. I just enjoy food way too much, and the trade-off for me of having a little belly but enjoying food the way I want to is without a doubt worth it. Well, my aunt does not see it this way. She thinks I'm not elegant and feminine enough, believes that I should be thinner like a woman should be, and insists I wear more makeup, as well as get more manicures and pedicures. It's a nightmare to deal with, honestly. It's especially frustrating when the holidays come around, and this is for 2 reasons. 1. She always has to comment about my weight, and no amount of my parents telling her to cut it out will make her stop badgering me about the fact that I'm a tomboy. The second reason is that her gifts are about as insensitive as I can think of. I don't remember the last time that she got me something that was not a makeup set, some sort of diet or healthy recipes book, or anything along those lines. It really does annoy me, but it's almost a weird tradition at this point. Well, this Thanksgiving was when she had really crossed the line. Recently, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and this has completely changed my life around. I can no longer enjoy the foods I would like to as much as I want to, have to constantly cater my life around being diabetic, and have even slumped into a somewhat depression because of this. Thankfully, my parents have been amazing throughout this. They are really supporting me in every way they can. We all knew that this Thanksgiving was going to be quite tense with my aunt there. She was definitely going to comment on the fact that I'm not having dessert, and that is when I would have to ultimately tell her what has happened. Due to this, my parents decided to try get ahead of the curve, and tell her themselves with my blessing to do so. The day before Thanksgiving they drove down without me, and when they came home they told me that my aunt seemed receptive to this news, and did not make a big deal of it. This really surprised me, and I almost actually believed her. When Thanksgiving came around the next day, we all gathered at our house to celebrate. The dinner went without a hitch for the most part. My aunt did not make any comments about me. She did talk about herself a lot, which is expected. However, she is an egomaniac. Apparently she got another plastic operation done. Since the last time I saw her, which was just 3 months ago, everything was fine until we had dessert after dinner. My aunt simply couldn't help herself. Her and I were the only people not eating dessert, and she looked at me and told me, "All the years of eating like crap caught up to you, huh? I told you this was going to happen, bet you regret it now." Now, I'm not one to cry, especially in front of my family, but this day was a reminder that my life was never really going to be the same, and so I was already feeling quite down. Add to that, my aunt's awful comment about it made me break down and cry. My parents shot up and asked her what was that all about. They told her not to do this and she just can't ever listen and not comment about her weight. She tried to defend herself saying, "I mean, I'm not wrong." This caused my dad to explode even more and tell her to get out. Her husband just laughed the whole time and backed up my aunt with sly comments like, "Come on, she's just speaking her truth." I had managed to stop crying fairly quickly, and I yelled out to my aunt and uncle as they were leaving, "All the years of being superficial and caring so much about how you look didn't stop your husband from cheating on you, did it?" She turned around with a confused look, and I saw my uncle freeze in his tracks. My father, not wanting to deal with the upcoming mess, just ushered them out and told them not to contact us until they are ready to apologize.